Welcome to the Imbalance Podcast, a place where we navigate the struggles and perks of single mom life, the ebbs and flows of my work in the beauty industry, quality relationships, working through personal traumas, and finding our higher purpose. Sounds like a lot of struggling? Well, it is. So grab a drink and let's try and balance it together, because who said we have to navigate through this chaos alone?
We can no longer fall for this argument of, throwing your vote away that has been leveled at third party voters for the last 3 decades.
Yeah.
There's people that are still alive today in their 60s that are like, oh no, I've been hearing this my entire life. I can no longer fall for this argument. I'm
Yeah.
gonna vote my conscience. And if you look at the platform of the Green Party, and if you look at the platform of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, they very much say they will not be engaging in these endless wars. They stand for climate justice, to stop the world from having a climate catastrophe where we're leaving our kids and our grandkids with a hotter planet that we had to live in.
We've seen through our lifespan how the climate has changed. I think people are just getting tired of feeling like they're being hushed about it, and like we need to actually take steps to do something about it. I find it so crazy that even to today, before I got on the call with you, I look up who are the third party candidates, and Claudia de la Cruz is not on there still. Like if you do a simple Google search, I'm sure going on the Socialist party website and stuff, you'll find them. But if you don't know that and you're just looking at a simple Google search, who's the third party candidates, they're not even on there. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
I think those are remnants of COINTELPRO. It was a program started by the United States government to repress socialist movements and communist movements within the United States in the 1950s.
Mhm.
This program was basically what dissolved the Black Panther Party. Um, it's what weakened the Communist Party of the United States of America. Um, and we're seeing remnants of that still occurring. So whenever a socialist alternative like Claudia and Karina, whenever they present their ideas, most people agree with them. So then that becomes dangerous for the establishment that's in power. Because when people realize that, oh, you can actually do this, like you can actually get into power and seize like the most powerful 100 companies and put them under state control so that they're not maximizing their profits through killing people like overseas. People are astounded by this because it opens up their minds to endless possibilities. uh,
Mhm.
the establishment does not want that. Claudia and Karina, they won the Independent Party nomination in California. They're called the Freedom Party in California. It's their biggest independent party running for office in California. But even then, they were still not invited to the debates.
Like, what are your thoughts on when it comes to the Palestinian genocide that we're witnessing? The Green Party and the Socialist Party, both of their leaders are saying that they will stop the genocide and put an end to it and have a ceasefire. And people say that the president doesn't have the power to do that. Is that true? Because a lot of us are criticizing Kamala, like, okay, you say you want a ceasefire, but what actions have you guys taken to do that? So a lot of us believe like maybe they just don't have the power to do it. So what are your thoughts on that?
And I've heard this too. I've heard things like, oh, the Zionist Israel government controls the American government, and the American government can do nothing to stop this. People forget the US government is the one that's providing them with weapons. and ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
They could stop this with a phone call. Like, they can stop this with an executive order where Biden says, executive order, number blah, blah, blah. We are seizing all shipments of weapons to Israel as of today. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars in value of weapons no longer getting to Israel. A lot of their weapons and ammunition are coming from the United States. If they were to no longer receive it from the United States, they don't have any other country shipping out arms to them like that, where maybe besides maybe a couple European countries are, but not to the magnitude that the US is. If we look at the history of how Israel came into creation, we see the United Kingdom, Britain, and the United States playing pivotal roles in the creation of Israel. In the 1980s, Joseph Biden gave a speech on the Senate floor talking about Israel. And he said, if Israel did not exist, we would have to create one so that our interests are protected in the Middle East. Netanyahu grew up in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Like, he's more American than I am, probably. um, and so to have this idea that the American government can't do nothing actually does a lot to hide basically their responsibility, and it allows them to wash their hands of any guilt. And as we look at Hamas fighting back, you have all these Israeli settlers leaving the country, and where are they going? They're going to Europe and the United States.
They're going back home.
They're going back home, exactly. But with Palestinian people, when they're being bombed and killed, it's like they have nowhere else to go home to because their home was literally just destroyed. So I think it exposes the colonial project that Israel is.
Yeah. And we're about to come up on the anniversary of, well, October 7th was, when Israel was attacked, but then that being the catalyst. It's just so sad how we as people can't figure out a better solution, instead of killing and bombing everyone and trying to call it fighting against terrorism. So, okay, so kind of going back to like Jill Stein and the Green Party. A lot of the opposition talk about, like you said, her not holding any seats, or not winning any elections. I don't know at all, but I know within the past 4 years, and that's a lot of like the pushback that she's getting. So for anybody who's looking to vote, maybe for her party, for example, do you think the lack of electoral wins or seats for a third party, and like specifically the Green Party in this case, is a warning sign that they won't be able to secure the presidency?
Mm, mm. So I'll say yes and no.
Okay.
So I say yes, that it is a warning sign that she may not win the presidency, um, because the entire establishment is against her. She
Right.
does not have support within the establishment pushing her forward. But I'll say no because it wouldn't be the first time that a third party candidate upsets the entire electoral system by winning the presidency.
Mm.
Um, the most popular third party candidate to have won the presidency, it was Teddy Roosevelt.
Hey all! Some of you may already know this, but besides being your podcast host, I'm also a cosmetologist. I have been in the beauty industry for the past 12 years, and I specialize in curly hair care, hair cutting, and coloring in the Northern Virginia area. My books are open, and if you'd ever like to book an appointment with me, please visit my website at www.kathlena.com. I also offer an adult and child versions of my ebook, Your Natural Hair Wash and Go Style Guide, which provides key information behind the science of hair, step-by-step wash, condition, and styling process, product recommendations, and more. Purchase right now and enjoy $10 off, no code required. Now back to the show.
But Teddy Roosevelt was a third party candidate, and nobody believed that he was going to win. But he did something that was very vital to his election, which was he went and talked to people in person. He showed up in multiple different points where at that point, the established parties did not even bother going there to campaign because they just assumed, oh, they're going to either vote for us or the other party. That's why I say no, because if Jill Stein is able to amass the votes that she needs, even if she doesn't win the presidency, let's just say that she wins a couple states but not enough to get past the threshold to win the presidency. That in itself is a sign for people that they are amassing power.
Mm-hmm.
There's this story I think about a lot whenever it comes to slow progressing things. Is this story of an old man who said, um, "I'm gonna carve out this mountain that's in front of my house because it obstructs the view of my wife." And everyone in the village called him crazy. They said, "There's no way you're going to do it. It's too much." But you know what? That old man kept going. Every day he would go over there and kept carving out that mountain. And then some villagers, after a few years of this man doing this, they noticed that the mountain now looked different. The mountain is actually being carved out. So then people start joining this old man in carving out the mountain. Eventually, the mountain is completely carved out, and the old man is able to give this beautiful view that he had been, carving out this mountain for his wife. But it just reminds me that only because it's hard doesn't mean that it is impossible.
No, I agree with that. I think these candidates get a lot of pushback because it's just like you're not gonna win. You're like you're too small, right? With the availability of information that we have because of social media and everything, people are able to see that we do have other options. It's like, and I mean, between you and I, it's like we don't know what's going to happen. Do you feel like this is one of the most important elections of our time?
I would say yes, in that we want people to get involved, but every election should be the most important one, because it's the current one that's going on, right? In 2026, whenever the midterm elections come up, that's also the most important election to take part in your life, because it's going to dictate what the next couple of years are going to look like for you. Presidential elections take part every 4 years. There are senator races every 2 years. There are House of Representative races every year. Um, there are local elections within multiple states every few months of any given year. Each election should be treated as the most important election in your life up to that point because it is the one that you are contending with right then and there. So yeah, I'll answer the question like that.
No, I think that was great. So basically, as long as we have the right to vote, we need to practice doing that each time it comes around. And I need to do more research about all the local elections too, because I hear that, well, you just said they're all important, but the local ones you feel like you kind of have more of a say so, I think.
Yeah.
Because again, it's like affecting you locally.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are ones that I need to do more of my research on. Like, I don't know, I don't know who my governor is. That's fucking
You're,
terrible.
you're in Virginia, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Is it still Glenn Youngkin? Does that sound familiar?
Mm-mm.
Uh, he's
I haven't
he's
heard of
horrible. He's horrible.
it. No.
But I will say, I'd even argue sometimes that local elections might even be more important because those local elections have a direct and more immediate impact on your community right after the election.
I feel like we unpacked kind of the message that I was trying to portray for sure. So thank you for helping me do that because I couldn't have done that on my own.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you inviting me on. I really do. And I'm so happy that I know you outside of this context because it's not the
Right?
last time we'll have these crazy conversations.
Let's stay connected. You can find me on Instagram at imbalancedwithcat or on my website, imbalancedpod.com. Give me a follow or a podcast review, and I'd love to share it on air. Thanks again for listening. Hope you enjoyed this show.